Hi everyone, welcome back. Today's upcycling project is extra special. I'll be transforming this beautiful silk kimono into an A-line panel dress with a boat neck and a matching quilted handbag for my lovely client Akemi. There's something magical about vintage kimonos. Each one holds a story. This one, made of cream silk and painted by hand with delicate butterflies, feels almost alive. The butterflies represent transformation, grace and renewal. And that's exactly what this project is about. When Akemi brought me this piece, we both knew it had to become something elegant, something that still carried the soul of the original kimono, but in a way she could still wear and cherish today. I wanted to design a dress that feels timeless, soft, and full of movement like the butterflies themselves. This kimono is made from pure silk, a fabric that was traditionally reserved for the upper class in Japan. The delicate hand-beaded motifs were often created using brushes and dyes, a technique that could take weeks to finish. In Japan, butterflies also represent the soul, and when two butterflies appear together, they symbolize marital happiness. It's such a poetic detail woven into the fabric. Upcycling a kimono isn't just about repurposing fabric, it's about honoring its craftsmanship and giving it a new chapter. This silk has already lived one life. Now it's about to begin another. Kimonos are usually sewn with straight seams, which actually makes them easier to take apart than you'd think. I'm carefully unpicking the stitching so I can use as much fabric as possible. Historically, this made it easier to wash or repair the kimonos since they could be taken apart and reassembled. Traditional kimonos were completely hand-sewn using a simple running stitch called washi, no machines at all. Every seam was done by hand, with stitches so small and even that they were almost invisible. A traditional kimono starts as one bolt of fabric, about 12 to 13 meters long and only 36 centimeters wide. The artisan's challenge was to use every inch of it without wasting a single scrap. This zero-waste approach has been part of kimono making for centuries. When the fabric was hand-painted or dyed, artisans would map the design so that the motifs aligned perfectly once sewn, even across seams. It's incredibly precise work. Even when you see butterflies or flowers continuing seamlessly over the panels, that's no accident. So yeah, I've got the kimono completely unpicked, and as you can see, a kimono is made out of long straight pieces like this. There's no curves on a kimono, which makes kimono the perfect garment for upcycling projects because you end up with these long straight pieces. Sometimes you are a bit limited with the size, but most of the time you can work around it. So I've got these long beautiful panels. But before I cut into this, I'm going to be making a mock-up. So I'll be making a mock-up in a different fabric. It's quite risky just cutting straight into the kimono fabric because obviously you're not going to be able to find the same fabric again. So I always recommend when you do a project like this, make sure that you always do a mock-up. Test that first and then cut into the kimono. So I'm going to cut the mock-up first, do the fitting, and then I will cut into the kimono. So here is my lovely client Akemi in the mock-up, and we are super happy with how the fit came out. Once the bodice is fully fused and lined, it would sit a lot smoother around her bust, but so far the fit is perfect. And now we can cut into the kimono. I'm cutting the new dress panel strategically so the butterflies flow around the body, almost if they're taking flight. Every cut is intentional. When you work with kimono fabric, you're designing with its story, not against it. When placing my pattern, I do try and avoid these little stains, as most older garments do have some flaws. But at the end of the day, small marks or age spots on vintage kimonos can actually add authenticity and history to the story rather than being flaws. They tell you that the garment has lived a life. So don't worry if your garment has some stains here and there. These tiny stains and faded brush strokes whisper some stories of its past. So I've ended up using the main body panels for the skirt, and then the sleeves I'm using for the bodice panels. Find that your fabric slips a bit too much cutting your silk, place tissue paper underneath it while cutting or sewing. It gives the silk a little bit more of a grip. I'll be fusing the entire bodice with a very lightweight fusing. If you find that your fabric's a bit too soft, a lightweight interfacing or stay stitching helps keep everything from stretching out, especially around the necklines. Did you know kimono motifs often follow the seasons? Butterflies, for example, are a summer motif, symbolizing the warmth and light of the season. For the lining, I've chosen a very delicate cream silk. This will complement the outer silky layer. As I sew these panels together, I can't help but think how these garments were once passed down through generations. Upcycling them feels like adding a new chapter, keeping their spirit alive. So I started by sewing all the bodice panels together. Silk attracts quite a bit of lint and static. Wiping your machine and work area clean before sewing helps so much. Silk tends to fray quite a lot, so I often use French seams, or I line the entire garment like I'm doing with this one. They encase the raw edges beautifully and add more of a couture touch. So yeah, I have lined the entire bodice and now I'm just attaching these side seams. This project reminds me why I love what I do, that fashion can be more than new fabric and new patterns. It can be a memory, emotion and gratitude all stitched in one. Once I've got the bodice and the skirt stitched together, I'll be going ahead and pinning the zip into the back. I'm using an invisible zip. Silk can breeze quite easily, so always handle it with care and be as gentle as I possibly can. I try and avoid blunt pins and too much pressing heat as well. So I've got some more pieces left over, so these are a bit too small to make like a whole garment, so I'll make maybe a belt and a matching bag out of these pieces. So let me see what is left and then kind of plan on the style, but I think a quilted handbag would be perfect for this. In Japan, the idea of using every last piece of fabric is called mottainai, a concept of not wasting anything precious. It means a deep respect for what already exists, a feeling of gratitude and a wish not to let anything go to waste. To me, mottainai is about transformation, seeing beauty in what has already been loved and giving it a new story. Quilted accessories like this are also a great way to stabilize delicate silk, giving it structure while keeping its softness. Honestly, you guys, I'm loving making bags. If I've got any piece of fabric lying around that's a bit too small to make a full garment, it gets turned into a bag. I absolutely adore this little bag and I'll be making so many more of this style. When ironing your final garment, make sure that you test your iron. Silk scorches quite easily. I like to press with a silk setting and use a pressing cloth for safety. And here she is, Akemi, wearing the finished piece. What was once a traditional silk kimono has now become an elegant A-line dress, light as air with butterflies that seem to dance as she moves. I wanted this dress to capture the spirit of transformation, to keep the softness, grace and poetry of the original kimono, but give it a new life, a new movement. Every stitch holds part of its story, the brush strokes, the small flaws, the silk's quiet shimmer, all still there, just reborn. Seeing it on Akemi makes my heart so full. It's like the kimono has found its way home again in a new form. There's something so moving about preserving the past while creating something new. Thank you so much for watching this transformation. I hope this inspires you to look at old garments differently. Every piece of fabric has another story waiting to be told. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more upcycling projects and tell me in the comments, what would you turn a vintage kimono into?